So today I thought I would show you guys how to make my Christmas chutney recipe. Now, do you get to Boxing Day? You've got all those leftover meats, you've got all those wonderful cheeses to use up, and then you think, chutney, forgot about that. Well, this is something that you can make ahead in December and store, because trust me, when it comes to Boxing Day and over the Christmas and festive season, this chutney is going to go down a real treat. It's also great for many other reasons, because it means you can use up your recycling jars. Yeah, instead of throwing them out, clean those jars out. I'll be explaining how to do that in a moment. And also it uses up some of those leftover neglected veg in the supermarket aisles. Yeah, have you ever been to the reduced and seen the veg and thought, oh dear, do you know, I wish I could make something with that? Well, this is the most perfect recipe for you. Also, what about gifts? Maybe you're tightening those purse strings. Maybe you want to give a gift to somebody but don't have a lot of money to be able to do something this year. Well, let's see if we can sort all that out for you. So without further ado, let's get making my Christmas chutney recipe. So what you're going to need to make this recipe, well, like I said, go to those reduced aisles in the supermarket. I picked up some real bargains yesterday. What I would usually use in my recipe, if you go to my website, it's 1 kilogram of courgettes. Now, this little lot, which was around about 600 grams, was, I think, around about 70 pence. And then I spotted an aubergine, and although that's not in my recipe, you can use it. It's got sort of similar textures. So don't be afraid to just swap a few bits if you fancy. So in here today is around 600 grams of courgettes, just chopped up into like that sort of shaped or quarters. And in that goes, throw another couple in there. And then I've just done the same with the aubergine to make up to a whole kilogram. So if you can't find aubergine or you want to make a substitute, fine, go ahead. Then I've got 3 large onions. I've chosen red because I prefer them in a chutney. I like the way they look more rather than a white onion. So again, I've just chopped those up roughly, but just into sort of not a crescent moon shape, but sort of quarter of that. So again, just pop that in. As you can see, you're going to need a fairly big pan, basically because of all the ingredients that's going into it, but it will reduce down, so don't worry about that. Next thing, I've got here 220 grams of mixed fruit. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you may actually notice that it's actually got some of the peel in it. I don't mind that because I'm going to add some fruit to it anyway. So I just think it just adds to that gorgeous texture and that taste. So don't be afraid if it's got some mixed peel in it. It's not the end of the world. Still all good. In it goes. The next thing is I'm going to add 500 mils of apple cider vinegar. Don't go try using something like a malt vinegar, which you would probably use for things like the pickled onions and stuff. It will be too harsh. So you need to have something like apple cider vinegar, and you can pick this up relatively cheap as well. I think I've got a 350 ml bottle for around about 80 pence, but I know you can get it cheaper if you have a look. So I'm going to stick that into. Then I'm going to start adding in some spices. So here I have got some fresh ginger. I have just really diced this up small. It's about 100 grams of this, but it really just adds to the warmth and the flavour of the dish. I didn't grate it because I don't want it more stringy. I want it to sort of disappear. So by really dicing it sort of as fine as I can, that will sort of help, and it will sort of hopefully sort of blend and mush into the dish without anybody knowing. Then we have a tablespoon of salt. I've got some nice coarse salt in there, so in that goes. I've got a tablespoon of coriander seeds there. In they go. A teaspoon of mustard seeds. You're getting all that heat in now with those flavours. Then you're going to add a pinch of cayenne pepper. I think that's probably maybe a weeny bit more than a pinch. Well, oh well, I hope they like it spicy. And now we're going to add some sugar, around about 380 grams of caster sugar. And what that will do is it really will sort of help balance out all of that vinegar flavour, really make it sweet and delicious. Just trying to get it in there without spilling it everywhere. Then we're going to add in a whole Bramley apple. This is like a cooking apple, just dice it up. Now, little Emily admission here. I used to have 2 Bramley apple trees at the back of my garden when I was little, and I did used to like climbing up, sitting, and then just eating the Bramley apple without it being cooked. Yeah, quite sour, but I really do love cooking apple. And the next thing, and the final thing, which is jolly good because that pan is getting rather full, is to add some garlic. Now, you want ideally around about 2 real nice, big, fat, chunky garlic cloves. Now I've got sort of a thinner one and a smaller one, so I'm adding 3. So whatever floats your boat. Do you like garlic? Do you not like garlic? What I've got here is my amazing garlic crusher. Do love this bit of kit. Done. Now you have to bring it to a boil. Do this sort of fairly gently, just until you've got everything in the pan there and it's starting to go down and not looking like a volcano of food. And then bring it to a simmer. It will take anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes to cook. It all depends really on the moisture content that you've got inside those vegetables. So be patient, don't go wandering off and doing something else, keep an eye on it, but it will take a little while. And while that's cooking, I'm going to be explaining to you how to sterilise your jars correctly. Yeah, we don't want any nasty tummy bugs. So how do you sterilise those jars? Well, actually, it's quite an easy process. If you've got a dishwasher, you can use that. Just use the hot cycle, absolutely fine, and just let them dry out. Otherwise, you can basically use the oven method. Just basically wash them, rinse them in nice hot soapy water, give them a bit of a dry, and then you're going to put your oven on to 140 degrees centigrade, turn the jars upside down, obviously without the lid on, and then just let them dry out. That's the best way to do it. However, if you're using these ones, which is here, and they've got like the Kilner jar with the rubber ring, do make sure you take this rubber part off, or you're going to end up with a nasty mess in your oven. It might damage them as well. But you can use all different things. So little jam jars, so cute. Use, other jars that you've got and you're about to throw away. Absolutely perfect. Although today I'm going to be using some of these, which is the big Kilner jars, because I know I've got a few people coming for Christmas, and I know it's no point me putting out a tiny jar because it's not going to last more than 5 minutes. Anything that you do use, do remember to be able to store them in your fridge or a really cool pantry for the time being. This is best made as well, I would say, a couple of weeks before you want to use it. That's so that those beautiful flavours that you've got going on in there, in the chutney, really have chance to amalgamate. So all those gorgeous spices, the fruits and everything, it just takes the chutney from that level to that level. The other question that I get asked is, when do you put your preserves into the jars? Well, you can put them as soon as you've cooked them. I would just sort of err on the side of caution and make sure it just cooled down slightly, or you could burn yourself. Some of these can be jolly hot, but what you do need to do is make sure that the jars and the product inside is cooled before you put any lids on or before you put any greaseproof paper. So just hold off on that until your preserves have gone cool.
The full written recipe is on my website, cookingwithemily.co.uk.